Hey guys, what's up? It's New. Welcome back. I've got something of a cool build update video for you guys today. I'm going to kind of make this a deep dive on the question of Charge Staff versus Flicker Strike. I think it's a very interesting question. As the build has evolved, I've gotten a lot faster, as I've become more like a topping Gemling Legionnaire in terms of speed. Not exactly all the way there, but pretty good considering I'm still running an Invoker Monk, still got Flicker Strike, trying to keep that an integral part of the build. It has made me begin to ask the question to myself, why are people not using Flicker Strike? Why are in some cases people not using Charge Staff? And in some cases builds just basically Tempest Flurry everywhere, and that's good enough. Is that really the most optimized way to play on a map tile set? So basically, I've come to find that if I want to use Flicker Strike, especially if I want to use Flicker Strike, it seems like Charge Staff has got to get out of here. It's just hamstringing me way too much. And I'll explain why that is. And I'm even going to make a pretty solid case for Flicker Strike over Charge Staff in that sense. You can see me clearing right now with no Charge Staff, but using Flicker Strike. And I think there's an argument to be made that the speed is actually faster because of how I'm doing it here. And this is a fairly open tile set that, if anything, would reward pure Tempest Flurry gameplay. But I mean, even right there, you can kind of see me scraping against the walls, get slowed down. I'm sure any of you, several of you I know for a fact, who have been trying to use the sort of Tempest Flurry wild speed Gemling Legionnaire have been quite frustrated with how it just scrapes against walls, gets stuck on boulders inside of a mini-map, doesn't even show up on the mini-map, and then trying to do map tile sets like Seepage or Augury or something is just a freaking nightmare to get through there. And that is actually where Flicker Strike really shines, and that's what I want to show you here. So you can see we are in everybody's favorite map, Augury. I have talked about this map, and I have suggested it's actually a lot better than people make it out to be. Not a map like Mire or something. It doesn't have much space for monsters to spawn, but even if you get like a breach in a map like this, you can spawn a freaking ton of monsters. It's just really hard to navigate and an absolute nightmare to try to go through those corridors and stuff with Tempest Flurry, or even just like generic attacks. But first, I want to start off by talking about the upsides of no Charge Staff, the downsides of no Charge Staff, as well as the upsides of Flicker Strike and the downsides of Flicker Strike. Let's try and get a sense of where my mind's at. And I think that'll be interesting to create some possible dialogue in the comment section down below, especially for those of you who maybe haven't even tried Flicker Strike but have been doing Tempest Flurry gameplay, as it is a very popular. It's totally meta now, at least as far as Gemling Legionnaires are concerned. And I think even if you're running Gemling Legionnaire, a lot of this is going to resonate with you. So the upsides of no Charge Staff, one of the major upsides is that it frees up a skill point. So that's a pretty big upside. Maybe not for Gemling Legionnaire, if you're already able to get the skill points, no problem. It doesn't cost any spirit, but for the Monk especially, that is kind of a big deal, and there's certainly some things we could do with that. Especially if you're not needing power charges anyway. So like if you were acquiring power charges just for Charge Staff, and then you take it out, well, you don't even need Combat Frenzy, you don't even need Resonance, you don't need Profane Ritual, you don't need any of that. Another upside would be better combo point generation, as well as rage generations. So if we look here, basically everybody runs rage support on Tempest Flurry. That gives you not one, in case like I have a Jewel that gives me 1 rage on hit, but that gives you 3, or in this case 4 rage on hit. Can really help scale rage and keep it up higher. The problem is when you're running Charge Staff, you almost never even get usage of this, because you're just killing everything in front of you at range. You'll get that 1 rage on hit, but you won't actually get 4, or you'll either get 0 or instead of 3, or you'll get 1 instead of 4. And it's actually kind of a big deal when you're mapping. You just end up having essentially no rage versus almost capped rage. And if you watch the replay again at the front end of the video, you'll see I was pretty high on rage the whole time. One last thing would be better connections with Flicker Strike moving forward. And this is actually the biggest one. Out of everything I want to say right here in this section, this is probably the biggest thing I've noticed. So I've been really frustrated with like Charge Staff trying to use it, and then I use Flicker Strike, and what happens? Well, I'm probably flickering sideways or backwards maybe, especially if there's a breach opening up behind me. I'm not flickering forward because there's no monsters that are forward, because they all just died from the Charge Staff. And this is sort of a grand epiphany. I mean, I know some of you guys might make fun of me for this, but it's kind of an epiphany that took me like 2 weeks to figure out. Hey, stupid, if you kill everything in front of you and then try to use Flicker Strike, you're probably not going to go where you want to go. And that is actually a big deal. I noticed when I dropped Charge Staff, suddenly Flicker Strike started working a lot better. As for the downsides of no charge staff, well, you'll do marginally less global damage. Obviously, you'll have less flat lightning. Now, that doesn't matter a whole lot if you already have a Hand of Wisdom, an action, and you already got a ton of intelligence, and you got like flat rolls in the rings, really good rings, ingenuity, and all that. Well, it doesn't matter that much. But if you're still, you know, just progressing through the build, especially before you get those gloves, or even if you have those gloves but you still got low attributes, it can hurt and sting quite a bit, and that's why it is suggested that you go ahead and use charge staff to get that extra flat damage. One more thing would be no shooting monsters through walls. So I'm going to show you that actually here in a second. It is kind of a big deal, especially on a map like Augury, which we're in. Shooting monsters through walls is helpful and can help you get a little bit more out of a breach in that case, but I think you'll find that the upside of that does not outweigh the downside. Now let's talk about Flicker Strike. Last second connections on breaches has been a very satisfying reason or upside for it. Absolutely love the moment when you know a breach is about to close, because I mean it's just time for it to end no matter what, but there's still like this one sort of quadrant that you haven't gotten to or clear, or maybe the layout was such that there was just no reason to go there until the end because it finally opens up at the end. Getting that last second flicker is there are definitely some situations where there's literally no other build on Earth that would be able to clear out a massive section of a breach except for Flicker Strike. Getting that just, you know, heavens open up magical Flicker strain all the way, you know, halfway across the map and just blast open a wide open area of breaches, and then, you know, a divine or two drops from there. And that there is absolutely nothing more satisfying than that, I think. One other upside to Flicker Strike: you get lightning fast pathing connections around corners, and that's another thing I'm hoping to showcase in this video. So you're going to get to see Flicker Strike, the wonder of Flicker Strike, in a bad tile set, and why you might want to think about including it if you're not already doing it and you're running, you know, a Tempest Flurry build of some kind. The last thing would be synergizing with power charge acquisition with charge staff and or charge infusion. So the upside to using Flicker Strike is if you're already going out of your way to generate power charges, well then you just have one more thing to spend it on. You don't have to like change your build to suddenly start generating power charges to use Flicker Strike. Of course, this doesn't apply if you weren't using charge infusion or charge staff or something else, but yeah, in most cases people are already using like one of those two things, in which case I'm still using charge infusion, so it feels good to keep it in there. Now how about the downsides of Flicker Strike? Well, I mean, on the flip side, you need to generate power charges. So again, if you weren't already doing it, now you need to generate them. Another thing is that it costs a skill point, okay? So Flicker Strike obviously costs a skill point, so I've been running Flicker Strike and Charge Staff. If I were to remove both of them, I would get 2 skill points free. Now, who knows what I can do with those? Maybe some things. But yeah, we'll talk about that at a later time, I guess. Sometimes pathing the wrong way is the downside of Flicker Strike. This is something that is, I think a lot of people have attempted to use Flicker Strike and just get immediately turned off by how they lose control of their character and they go backwards. And yeah, that can be kind of jarring. I've mentioned this before. There's actually something of a skill cap to this. It takes a while to really get used to it and to set up a situation where you are most likely to flicker in the direction you want to. And that depends on where the monsters are, the layout of the map. And you definitely have to actually kind of think. It becomes second nature after a while, but initially you do have to give it a little bit of conscious thought when you press Flicker Strike. You don't just automatically press it any given moment. This is especially true if you're trying to roundabout breaches that are mid-opening, and you know the monsters will spawn behind you, and then if you flicker, you just end up going backwards over and over and over again. And so I've managed to figure out how to not do that hardly at all anymore, and it takes some time. Definitely takes some time to get used to that. So with that out of the way, now you kind of understand where my head is at on this. I do have Charge Staff loaded in here, so I'm going to go ahead and use it once I get Profane Ritual to give me Power Charge, which probably should have happened already, but I guess these are all Delirious monsters. There we go. Okay, so you can see right here there's a monster there, and it's dead. I mean, there it is. I mean, that's just all I want to show you. Like, obviously that has some major advantages. In the last second of a breach, or just in general, like let's say that was some dangerous monster and I was able to just kill it that way. I mean, that doesn't really matter now at this point. But yeah, you can see, I mean, I don't really have to talk about why that's an upside. It's pretty self-explanatory, I think. So I'm going to let Charge Staff fall off naturally because I don't want to use it anymore. It's still going to be good for bosses. I suppose I should have mentioned that one of the major upsides to using Charge Staff, or at least having it on your bars available, is that you're going to do like that marginally more damage is going to matter against the boss. Probably a little bit, no matter how well geared you get. But at any rate, we are here with a cleared Augury. There's nothing in the but some stuff in the middle, and I've verified that there is a breach in there. And I don't know, for fun, let's just see how many attacks per second. 17.54. All right, 17.54 is the number I'm at. It's a pretty good number. All right, so there's a breach here in the middle. Now, what are we going to do with this? Just going to open it up. Everybody likes to see a breach in the middle of Augury, sure. But when it comes to expanding on the outside, people, you know, quite often just kind of going to give up. There's going to be a lot of monsters that spawn that you're just not going to get to. It's going to be the case for most characters. I would even say a very, very fast Tempest Flurry Gemling Legionnaire is still going to have a hard time getting all this stuff out here. So I clear the open. Everything is good there. And obviously I'm going to take one of the corridors around to go around, you know, this way or that way. Probably not the best direction that I went first, but okay. There, we made it around. And you can see I'm having a hard time navigating the walls, right? But here we go. This is where the magic happens, right here. Now this is something that you can't actually do. Right here, I'm just sort of spamming Flicker Strike and getting around, getting a lot of extra clear. And I was able to clear that entire area down there. I might have missed, I think, that one little corridor. But, you know, I didn't kill every single monster that spawned in a breach, but I would challenge anyone to actually run through that, especially with Tempest Flurry, without getting stuck on the walls repeatedly. And to have done that without Flicker Strike. And so that is just a situation that I've ran into over and over again. It could be on Seepage, it could be on Augury, it could be on Crypt, it could be on basically any of the B or C tier maps. I think with the exception of Mire, because that one just sucks anyway, and there's just like a bunch of dead space. But with the exception of Mire, essentially any single map, I have the option to like run around, like on Savannah, Steppe, or Rust Bowl, which of course everybody likes to showcase for obvious reasons, because they can make, you know, a Tempest Flurry build look really good out in the open. Of course, I can just go around the open, right? I can just constantly just go around, and I don't even need to use Flicker Strike. In fact, it may almost make more sense to not use it at all on a map like that. But when I am forced to run maps like this, which I essentially am, because the game forces my hand by giving me, you know, 100% plus quant precursor loaded Augury maps, not this one, but, you know, the numbers were decent. I mean, I'm going to run that map, 125%. That's without a precursor proc there for the quantity roll. That's a low-end quantity roll. Of course I'm going to run it. And so that's what I wanted to show you guys today. I'm just kind of letting you know where my head's at. I figured it was good enough reason to make a video. And there will be a link down below on, again, the crit variant of the attribute stacking. I've actually changed it. I've changed it kind of significantly. So if for some reason you were kind of following exactly what was going on, you might want to take a look at that. I still have Charge Staff in the build at this point right here, but for now I don't have a really good idea about what to put in. I mean, you could use Siphoning Strike to get power charge back that way. I don't think it's really that necessary to do that. It takes a little too long to build up on a boss anyway. But, you know, there's a lot of different things we can do. And yeah, I mean, I pulled a lot of points. I mean, I ended up pulling Slippery Ice, Icebreaker. I ended up even pulling out of Coming Calamity. Pulled out of all this stuff, Mystic and Essence of the Storm. A lot of good nodes have been pulled out to get all the way down here and take even more crit and go ahead and get Jack of the Trades, Polymathy. And yeah, pulled out of all this Quarterstaff. It's interesting, I've come to find that some of these, you know, they're nice, but at this sort of level, they seem, the value of some of these things, not quite as good as you might think. I think they're more valuable when you're kind of in that mid-in-between phase. But yeah, this is what I've been working on, and yeah, again, it's linked down below. So that's it for the video. I'm very curious to see what you guys think, especially those of you who are playing pure Gemling Legionnaire without Flicker Strike, and you like it. I'm just kind of curious if you've experimented with this to try to help you get around some crazy tile sets with a bunch of corridors, walls, and stuff. And if so, if that's been a deal breaker for you, if you decided to include it in the build or not. But with that, we are out of here. That's a video for today. I'll be streaming later on the next couple days, so I'll see you there if you're there. Otherwise, see you in the next video.